Hey, I'm Kathleen Jasper. Today we're talking about the key mistakes I see people make when they are studying for their teacher certification exam or any exam. Let's get started. All right, so I'm going to go over some of the key things you want to avoid when you are studying for your teacher certification exam. I see these mistakes a lot, and I don't think people realize they're doing them until I sort of point them out. So let's start with the very first mistake, which is number one in my book, and you have to make sure you avoid this, and that is relying solely on practice tests. It feels good to open the back of a study guide, go straight to that practice test, do the practice test, and then maybe do another practice test, and then another practice test, then another practice test, and you're not getting any better. Those questions are a really good self-assessment after you have understood the information in the front of the study guide. Now, all of my study guides have a ton of information in the front of them. And then in the back, there are those practice test questions. I recommend you learn the information in the front first. Now, if you want to use one of the practice tests as a pre-test to see where you are as a baseline, then go straight to that one and do that first, and then go into the book and study those areas where you are low, and then go back to the practice test and do another practice test. But if you are just focusing on trying to memorize test questions and hope you get those same test questions on test day, that is an exercise in futility. We have no idea what test you're going to get on test day. The testing companies have item banks with hundreds, sometimes thousands of different items in them. And you get a few of those items on your form of your test the day you go in to take the test. There is no way to know which ones you're going to get. Now, we do make sure, and other testing companies do the same thing, that we cover all the skills in the test specifications and all the standards the tests are aligned with. So that means you really have to understand the concepts, the skills. You have to be able to do the math, understand the reading, understand, if it's a teacher certification exam for reading, understand what phonics is and how to teach it, understand what comprehension is and how to build that in students. You can't just jump to the practice tests because there's so much to learn in those areas. So please use the practice tests as self-assessment, but do not use them as the end all be all of your studying habits. Now, if you're someone who is really good in math and you just want to make sure like your skills are still there, doing a quick practice test in the math for Praxis Core or ACT is the way to go. You can kind of see, oh yeah, I forgot my trigonometry or I forgot my slope intercept. I'll fix that up. But if you're struggling in math, just doing practice tests over and over again is not going to help you. You have to work on those skills. So that's the first mistake I see people make. So please try to avoid that. The second mistake I see people do is when they cram in one weekend. Sometimes I get emails from people who say, hey, I want to buy your online program. I'm taking the test tomorrow at 9 a.m. And I get this email at like 10 o'clock on a Sunday. And they're like, how much time does it take to get through your online course? Well, our online courses have hours and hours of video, and they are really designed for people who want to dig down into these concepts and spend a little time. I don't recommend spending, a year or even several months, but you need a week or 2 weeks at the very least for many of these bigger exams. Now, some people thrive in cram mode. I have gone to school with lots of people who they sit down on a Saturday and a Sunday, they don't sleep, they cram, they go in and take the test on a Monday. But most people are not like that. We need time to digest the information. And in my line of work that I have done for many, many years in the testing industry, I have found that incremental practice over longer periods of time yields much better results. So I'm talking 20 to 30 minutes Monday, 20, 30 minutes Tuesday, 20 to 30 minutes Wednesday. Maybe you can't get it in on Thursday because your kids have a soccer game or whatever. Maybe you just do 10 minutes, a couple of questions. You just do that, or you read a little section. That's all you can get in. By staying in the test and studying for it incrementally over time, you are setting yourself up for success because your brain is in it. If you just take everything and cram over that weekend, it's not always going to work out for you. It might, but it's going to be harder to prepare yourself for that exam. So incremental practice over time. And I recommend not doing 3 hours a night. That's too much. Space it out. bite-sized chunks, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 if you're working on those reading skills. If you're working on the comprehension, you want to read a full passage and maybe do some practice test questions, stuff like that. That takes a little bit longer to analyze your answers and things like that. But just chunk it out. A lot of times you could do one section in the study guide each night and then maybe part of a practice test the next day or something like that. Just chunk it out. I promise you it's going to work out a lot better for you than if you cram over one Sunday, 12 hours before you're supposed to take the exam. The next one is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I have some people who email us and they're really upset, and it's understandable. They have failed the 5th, 6th, or 7th time, and they can't understand why they can't get through, right? And 9 times out of 10, it's because they're going into the exam with the same mindset and the same approach. They might have, used the same study habits all 6 times taking the exam. And what I've noticed with these prospective teachers and students is that some of the questions that they think they're getting right on the exam, they're not getting right. So then when they see those questions again, and sometimes you will see the same questions again, not always, but sometimes they answer them the same way. They go, oh, I already got this one before and I answered it C. You may be answering that question incorrectly and you're doing it again and again and again. And the test is revealing that you're making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So when you're hitting a wall like this and you've taken the exam several times, I recommend clean slate, brand new mindset. Take a break. Maybe you take the full 30 days if you have time, or a couple weeks off, and you just try to get it all out of your mind and then start over fresh as if you've never done a practice test and never looked at the exam ever, because it will help you find nuances that you might have missed. Sometimes we get so frustrated and we go in and we're like, oh, I already had that question. I know that's C. And it's not. You're answering it incorrectly. So please try to clear your mind of any bias, any things you might think are correct, and go in there with a fresh perspective. That's going to help you. And remember, lots of people have to take these exams multiple times. It is not uncommon for people to have to take, especially the big ones like the 5001 and the Praxis Core and the 7001, these bigger exams. It takes them a couple of times. So just go easy on yourself and get through it, but go in with a new perspective that will help you get over that hump and break through that wall and pass the exam the next time. And finally, and probably the most important, I would say, go easy on yourself. One of the biggest mistakes I see teachers make is that they beat themselves up because they didn't pass the exam. I would like you to treat yourself the way you would treat one of your students who was unsuccessful on an exam. What would you tell that student? You would say, let me help you. Let's have a look at where you are low and let's fix up those skills so that next time you take the exam, you could be successful. I want you to do the same thing for yourself. You can have a pity party. That's okay. Be upset. Couple hours, that's fine. But don't stay in the pity party too long. Let's get out of that. Look at the skills where you are low. Look at that score report and then zero in on those skills and really work on them. Remember, if your student was unsuccessful, you would not berate that student and tell them that they're stupid and they should never be a teacher and you can't believe that they ever thought they could ever pass the exam. We don't want to talk that way about ourselves. So cut yourself a break and then don't just keep doing those practice tests. Go back and really look at those skills. If your student was unsuccessful, you wouldn't just keep giving that student a test over and over again. You would go in and say, let's work on these skills together. Do that for yourself and cut yourself a break. You will pass. You will pass. Just keep it going. Keep working on those skills. And I promise you, you will pass. All right. So this is where you can find all of our study materials. You can see that we have a ton of study guides here. Elementary education, PLT, praxis teaching, reading, all of that. We also have online courses, which come with the study guide, the digital study guide. We have extra practice tests. We also have these new audio courses that people seem to really like. It's, learn on the go, listen to those courses in your headphones. And of course, we always have our free webinars. If you're looking for some free stuff to get you started, go ahead and go to my webinars tab. You'll see that I have so many free webinars here and they come with a mini study guide. So this will get you started, especially if you're on a budget. Now, our study guides are digital on our website, meaning they're emailed to you. But if you prefer a physical copy, just click this Amazon button here. And when you do, it'll take you to the physical copy where you can get that on Amazon. Now, I recommend buying it new on Amazon. If you get it used, you might save a few bucks, but there's going to be writing in it. And what's the good of a physical study guide if there's writing in it. So go ahead and grab that new paperback if that's what you want to do. All right, that's it for today. Let me know if you have any questions, and please keep up your studies, keep working hard, and I promise you will pass these exams. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.